Okay, boys and girls, welcome to the Clark Fork Estates Vineyard. We're starting off here in our vegetable tunnel. You'll notice we have a variety of greens on the way. We've had a really difficult season this year. It's been quite cold and rainy, as you can see from the clouds. And here we are, the latter part of June, and still no heat. Definitely a lot of moisture though. For those of you who are into wild leafy greens, we got a little arugula here. A little bit of Ferrell inch loose in the back, and a little more arugula right here. It's easy to grow, that's why we grow it. We got some spinach going here, some lettuce, some carrots in here, and we're hoping for some tomatillos right here, the blank spot. Some more tomatillos. As you can see, as we get down the rest of this tunnel here, things are looking a little sparse, but we're hoping we get some stuff to grow here fairly soon other than weeds. As we kind of pan over here to the right, things are looking a little better. This is one of our potato fields here. I believe these are Yukon Golds, but I'm not sure. I got to look at the label. As we swing over to our right here, you can see our cornfield, and this is actually Oaxacan dent corn, which is actually a flour corn. You dry it and then you grind it once you've taken it off the cob, and you can make all sorts of fun stuff with it. Not the least of which is tamales. Green at that. It's kind of an interesting color. The other thing we did today is we actually did some intercropping. And intercropping, of course, we planted the three sisters. The first sister being the corn, the next two sisters being pole beans and butternut squash. The idea is to get a equivalent yield out of this area that is about 2x what you would normally get from a biomass standpoint under the same area. The crops mutually benefit each other. As we swing over here, you'll notice our relatively blank sweet corn field, which was recently planted, and we also did some intercropping with tomatillos. I happen to like tomatillos because you can make some killer green salsa with it, and we're going to see how that pans out. And of course, as we pan a little bit over here, we're back to our vineyard, and you'll notice that things are looking a little bit sparse right now. We'd like to see a little more greenery at this point in the season. But again, because of the cool weather and abundant rain, the growth pattern is just not exactly where we want it. But nonetheless, if we come right in about right here, you might be able to see a couple of little clusters right there. So our marquette here, which is our latest planting that we had, maybe second leaf, is hanging in there. And as we pan all the way down here, we got over 200 feet of potatoes, 2 rows. That's quite a bit, by the way. And I'm trying to find out what kind of potatoes we had here. And it looks like, oh, Adirondack Red. Very nice. So we're going to have a lot of red potatoes this season, along with a smattering of red rose, all blues, banana fingerlings, you name it, we got it. Now this particular year, we opted to use our new tiller to really clean these rows out quite nicely. We have one of the guys helping us in the vineyard, Steve Williams, who's been putting in quite a bit of effort cleaning these rows up. He just started in yesterday. The weeds are relentless. That horrible combination of a lot of water and just enough sun to get the weeds to grow, but not enough sun to get my plants to grow quite as well, is not exactly what we're shooting for. And over here, we have the beginnings of our irrigation system. We use a combination of drip irrigation and small micro sprinklers to conserve water, and also take advantage of our low GPM out of our well, which is about 30, which is not the greatest, but it's enough since we're all in drip here. As I walk a little farther here, you're going to notice that we have our compost pile here, one of 3 stations in the farm, at least on the upper vineyard, where we are composting. Everything we pull out of this farm is going to go right here. We don't eat it, it goes here. So the idea is by the end of the season we'll have a nice little compost pile there, and we'll be able to put that back into the farm next year. Over here is our little wheat field. We have a little experiment going here. This is Roblin spring wheat right here, and we're going to see how that grows. It should be ready for harvest in the fall, or so we hope, and the wheat's doing quite well. quite happy up in Montana. Montana is one of the largest wheat producers in the country, as well as one of the largest barley producers in the country. So for all you beer types, we need barley. We're all about barley. But of course you can't have beer without having a new hop yard. And we've got roughly out of 300 rhizomes that we put in the ground, so far 112 have popped out of the ground. They were planted a little deep and maybe a little late, so we may not get all the growth that we want here, but nonetheless there are some hops here, and 112 hop vines is not bad. Over here, shocker, more potatoes. We basically over ordered on our seed potatoes, and what ended up happening is we needed to find more places on the farm to put them, and I'm not even sure what's in here, but we'll find out when we start pulling them out of the ground in about 4 or 5 months. Over here we have a series of garden bins. There's 10 all told. We just put in our drip irrigation system. You can see the end of it right there. Japanese climbing cucumbers, more potatoes, a variety of herbs here that are kind of struggling a bit here, mainly because of the lack of sunlight and too much water, but it looks like they're starting to green up a little bit, so there may be hope for us yet. Over here we actually planted some peas in here, and we're going to see how these come up. And of course you can't go anywhere without tomatoes in a garden. And our beans took a bit of a frost hit. You may notice some of the brown initial leaves that come out, and they're not looking the greatest, but we're starting to see some green leaves. Right here, this little guy right here with this whole garden bin here is planted with tomatillos, and they need quite a bit of heat to get them to germinate, so we're trying a little experiment here. Over here we have a little red cabbage. For those of you in California who know the Northwoods Inn, they have a wonderful red cabbage salad. My wife insisted that we grow this, so we grow it. Some tomatoes that aren't doing very well. They got hit by the frost a few weeks ago. And the pepper plants are actually coming along. Believe it or not, we actually have a pepper. That's shocking. And our Spanish Rioja garlic here is struggling just a tad. Spanish Roja. I don't think there's enough nitrogen in the soil, so we might have an issue there. They have some German red garlic here, quite nice, and some more Spanish Roja garlic here, with a little potato that got loose last year. Well, this garden bin is obviously doing well. We've got radishes that are quite large, lettuce plant, a whole ton of carrots. Those take a while to grow. Carrots are hard, by the way. Tomatillos, they're doing wonderful, so we should have quite a few tomatillos. And once again, more potatoes from last year that popped out of nowhere. We got a little bit of onion, and of course no Latin American garden cannot have cilantro, which is nice. Over here we have a little leftover spinach plant right down there, but we actually grew some huckleberry here, and we grew some onion sets on the far side there. The onions are doing quite well. They're quite suited to this environment. And we have some ancho peppers that we seeded down in here, and we'll see if those pop out sometime soon, but they need a lot of heat. And one of the stars of our show is, of course, our hop yard. So we have a variety of hops here: Magnum, Zeus, Galena. We got some Cascade here, and we have some Magnum. Many of these hop rhizomes and hops in general are high alpha acid varieties. Our new hop yard has been dedicated to the Big Sky Brewery per request. We've put in all the hops that they desire: Chinook, Galena, Cascade, and Centennial. And of course this is our oldest hop yard right here. And this is Mount Hood, Sterling, and Hallertau, and I believe a little Cascade. This is our initial effort, and as you can see, the hop vines are quite happy in this environment. As we move along here, again you'll notice we've kept a pretty clean vineyard, though there's still a lot of weeds in there we need to deal with. And as we move over to here, this is kind of a interesting project we've engaged in over the last 5 years, and that's to try to grow Pinot Noir. And let me tell you, it's been a struggle. Pinot Noir has to be buried every single year. So each of these canes that you see, trunks if you will, we drop these trunks and we actually put them and we bury them in soil every year, and then we uncover them, and out comes our Pinot Noir vine. And we can only hope that we get enough clusters to keep us in the game here, because there's really not a lot of Pinot. As I'm reevaluating the situation, you'll see there's a lot of blank spots here in our Pinot Noir area, and I'm going to be replacing these with Marquette. because that is my go-to vine. Well, that's it for now, and thank you for visiting the Clark Fork Estates Vineyard.